Hello everybody, David Abram here. Welcome back to my channel as always. And for today's video, since it's been a while, I want to roll right into this, starting off with, after taking the red pill and listening to other videos, the one thing I've noticed with all the videos is that, at least from my perspective, they all center around three things, especially in the MGTOW community. And these three things are what I like to call the three fundamental principles. And these three fundamental principles, I think, really boil down what MGTOW is all about. And from my view and perspective, you could take it with a grain of salt if you like, but I think if we understand these three principles, if newcomers understand these three principles, then the better they'll understand MGTOW. And I'm going to roll right into them because I think these are key to understanding men going their own way. So the first one I want to talk a little bit about is volunteerism. Now, volunteerism is the use of or reliance on volunteers, especially to perform social or educational work in communities. Now, and I would say that MGTOW, or men going their own way, have a very strong community online. In YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the MGTOW forums and MGTOW websites. And it's all volunteer. People like Sandman, Stardust, Barbarossa, Scotty3861, Louis Marco, and a lot of others. You know, everything they do is volunteer. They don't have to do the videos that they do. Mayor of MGTOW doesn't have to do the videos he does, or Truth Over Everything, but they do it. And they do it because they want to do it, and they want to help other men. And because of that, I think the very first principle with MGTOW is volunteerism, because no one is forced to be a MGTOW. Every single MGTOW you see is a MGTOW because they want to be a MGTOW. So I think that's important, the first one. And the second one I want to talk about is individualism, or individuality. And individuality in the first context is, number one, the belief in the primary importance of the individual and in the virtues of self-reliance and personal independence. Now, one of the basic concepts or ideologies behind MGTOW is that you should be dependent upon yourself and that you should not look to others for approval. You shouldn't look to female approval, or you shouldn't look to approval from social circles, but your approval and evaluation should come from you as a person. And the second context of individuality is a doctrine holding that the interest of the individual should take precedence over the interest of the state or social group. Just like I said, one of the basic ideologies within men going their own way is that they value the interest of the individual, which is them, over the precedence or over the interest of the state or social group. So in other words, we realize that the only one who really actually knows in their heart what may be in their best interest is us, as men. Regardless of what social groups like to dictate or what the state itself likes to dictate. For example, take the contract of marriage. Being the red pillars we are, we understand that marriage is not in our best interest. We know this because we've taken the red pill, and through the red pill we have exposed or have been exposed to a lot of the flaws within the system to know that the system is biased and they don't hold our best interest. And so that is the second principle. So far we've got volunteerism and we've got individuality. And now I want to talk about the final and third principle behind men going their own way. And this one is really the center and the nitty-gritty. And it's self-discipline. And self-discipline is the training and control of oneself and one's conduct, usually for personal improvement. Now, if you look at MGTOW, and if you've watched any of Sandman's videos, Barbarossa's videos, Truth Over Everything, and more, and Neo Unplugged, might I note, they all talk about self-discipline from different angles. Self-discipline when it comes to female relations, self-discipline when it comes to your finance, self-discipline when it comes to a lot of things. And a good example of how this self-discipline could be applied is knowing that you do have biological imperatives. And with these biological imperatives comes an impulse, and you want to act on these imperatives. But self-discipline is when you step back and you realize, yeah, I do want to act, but these are the risks associated with doing so. And this is what I risk losing, and potentially what I risk gaining. But I understand there's consequences to every single action I take, even if they are a biological drive or imperative. And this allows us to act accordingly. So, as much as MGTOW and the Red Pill teaches us about female nature and the nature of the state, they also teach us about ourselves. They teach us about our own natures as men. And once we are educated about our natures as men, we are able to effectively realize when these biological imperatives are at hand, and then take a step back for a minute and say, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't do this, because if I do this, these are the risks I will be taking, and the risks I'm about to take exceed that of the rewards that are the end product. So it might be best if I don't do this. And in that way, we are able to, instead of thinking with our hormones and biological imperatives, we are able to think with our minds and our cortex. And that is the third principle in a nutshell: self-discipline. And I've thought about these three principles for a little while, and I played them out through watching other videos in the manosphere, and I think these three principles apply universally. No matter what any MGTOW talks about, whether it be finance, whether it be saving your money, spending money, budgets, female relations, marriage, double standards, levels of MGTOW, pretty much, at least from my view, these three principles are universal, no matter what the topic is for MGTOW. And I think anyone who's just starting out taking the red pill, or taking the red pill and going into MGTOW, once you understand these three basic principles, the rest of it really isn't all that difficult. And I actually would encourage those just taking the red pill to try these out themselves when you watch MGTOW videos or videos in the manosphere, and play these all out. For example, Aaron Clary talks about a lot of finance things and economics, and you could actually apply that to the second principle here of individuality, because all MGTOWs have a different financial situation, and having a different financial situation means that their budgets will be all over the place and not exactly identical to the next MGTOW. You sort of see where I'm going with this. And you could talk about volunteerism with the levels of MGTOW, because there's 4 levels of MGTOW as far as I know, and some MGTOWs choose to date, some MGTOWs don't choose to date, some MGTOWs cohabitate, some MGTOWs don't cohabitate. But the main important thing is these 3 principles are the outline guides, in my view, ship to MGTOW. And once the newcomers understand this, if you are a newcomer watching this, if you understand these 3 principles, the rest will work its way out. As long as you qualify with the 3 tenements of MGTOW, as I mentioned in another video, that you are a male, you're single and or unmarried, and understand gynocentrism and willfully reject it, after that, the sky's your limit. And then you can sort of tackle into these 3 principles. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on the outlines of MGTOW, or guidelines. If you want, or if it helps, think of these 3 principles as the guidelines behind MGTOW and behind its ideology. But what do you guys think? Do you agree, disagree, like, dislike? What are your thoughts on this? Do you think I'm spot on? Did I miss anything? If I did miss anything, please don't hesitate to leave a thought in the comments section below. Please do subscribe, like, and until the next time, cheers.